And there we go. Salutary, and salutations, friends. It is your boy Ray, joined by Peter, Bucket Since 88. We are back with Nuggets Wave. You can find me online at Rayvon Hackshaw. You can find Peter, like I said, at Bucket Since 88. And you can find the podcast at Nuggets Wave on YouTube, as well as your favorite podcast platforms. So, it's been a few weeks since we've last potted together. Peter, we don't have any bigs. All our centers belong to the bench because I really can't describe how much bad luck we seem to have accrued and manifested into one single season. So I gotta ask, did you sacrifice a goat?
I have not sacrificed a goat, but Happy New Year, Ray. First
Happy
pod
New
of
Year.
2026.
Let's
Let's
get
hope we
it.
can get through this show with no injuries. I do have some good news to report. I went and played basketball this morning for the first time in months, and I did not get injured. Uh, made,
Hey,
made a couple layups, had a putback, even hit a three. I'm still getting buckets, baby. So
very cool. Very cool.
the Nuggets injury bug has not made its way to the fan base yet, at least not up in Alaska somehow. But yeah, it's been rough times. Guys have been dropping like flies. Jokic goes
I'm
down.
hurt too, actually.
Oh no.
Yeah, I have something. I tore something in my wrist, but it's fine. It'll be
Ooh,
fine. Well, it'll work out eventually.
you'll bounce back. You're out 4 to 6
Yeah.
weeks like everybody else. um.
It's been a minute. I don't want to get into it too much, but it's
All
been
right.
some months. But it'll hand things are delicate, soft tissue injuries. But what's more optimistic than the prognosis about my wrist is that hey, Jokic isn't out for the season. It's
Right.
nice. He's climbing stairs, he's riding bikes, he's moving around doing stuff. I think that's given the team a lot of optimism. And unfortunately, they suffered a little bit of a secondary blow because Valanciunas also is out for plus weeks with a calf strain. And now we went on to this game. We're recording just after the matchup with the Toronto Raptors and
And the Cavs.
the Cavs. Yeah. And
Yeah.
it was a good fight.
So let
I
me
feel
let
like
me
they,
just
they
set
fought
the
well.
yeah, let me just set the scene real quick to review. So we already know AG and CB have been out for a while. Should be back soon. Jokic gets hurt second game of the road trip in Miami after they blow a completely winnable game in Orlando. Um, Disaster class from Adelman, in my opinion. Just throws out this awful lineup to start the second quarter where he has Valanciunas and four guards. I mean, I get it. He doesn't trust Zeke, but like that group had no shot. They couldn't get a rebound. They couldn't defend. They couldn't score because he didn't put Jamal with him either. So I get it. He's got to get a break at some point, but to play four guards and have one of them not be Jamal just didn't really work. I was hoping he'd go away from that second half, and he didn't. Nuggets get a lead again by like 10. Fourth quarter comes around, and they just give it right back. Seemed like Orlando scored on pretty much every possession to start that fourth until they took a timeout. Um, I know there were some questionable calls in that game, but you know me, I try not to make it about the refs. I thought they were bad both ways. You know, the Nuggets scored what 131 points in that game, lost by one. You know my opinion. If you give up 132 points in a basketball game, you probably didn't deserve to win. So they go down to Miami. They're playing a lot better. Jokic gets hurt right before half, and predictably the Nuggets are like kind of in shock. So I don't really hold it against them that they came out and just kind of didn't play well in the second half. The news comes out the next day that Jokic has a hyperextension, bone bruise on his knee, and is going to be out for at least 4 weeks, reevaluated after that, but should be back within 6 to 7 weeks at the worst. We're like, okay, this is not great news, but it's still better news than, out for the year. We're going to have to try to make things work. One of the ugliest games I've ever seen Ray, the Toronto Raptors game. I mean, that team, how can I describe the Raptors? They're like, you know how they say like if somebody's like 80% as good as somebody, they'll be like, "Oh, he's a poor man so and so." The Raptors are like a homeless man's OKC because they're like really athletic and they defend, but they just can't shoot a lick. I mean, their bench went 0 for 18 from 3 in this game. They scored 103 points, and the Nuggets toughed it out. They scored 106, just barely enough to win. I thought they were going to lose because it looked like it was going to overtime because Brandon Ingram hit a crazy shot at the end to tie it, but the review showed that it was like just a little too late. So to just get one win after Jokic goes down, I think was just so huge for the team's confidence. Just like because I feel like you can always say that you're confident and you could say you believe, but I feel like you have to at least do it once to prove it to yourself, right? Like talk is cheap. Everybody can say what you're going to do, but actions speak louder than words. So actually getting a real tangible win under their belt, I think was huge just to not go over on the road trip. And unfortunately, the bad thing in that game is Valanciunas gets hurt, right? So now you really are without a true center. Um, and they played really well for 3 quarters against Cleveland. So I've been talking for a long time. I'll go to you and get your thoughts before I talk about how they looked in the last 2 games because I thought there were some really interesting things that happened in the games. And we can break it down.
I mean, for starters, I'm really proud of how they've fought in the absence of those two guys. I mean, Jokic is so much to this team. He's so much to the organization. He's so much to the city. I think for so many years, the team has relied upon him to be available and to be stable and to honestly kind of carry them whenever they falter and whenever they need anything really. That they look to him to say, "Oh, do we need a three right now?" Well, Jokic can do it. Oh, do we need someone to get an assist? Well, Jokic can do it. Do we need someone to get to the rim and draw a foul? Well, Jokic can do it. Do we need someone to bring the ball up the floor? Okay, well, Jokic then can do it. And for the first time in maybe over 5 years, a decade, uh, the team does not have this sense of clear identity and form and function. And I think they've responded really well in that absence. Especially, I think Jamal Murray has tried to step up his game as much as he can. But it goes deeper than that. It goes down to your Peyton Watsons, your Jalen Pickett's. You're gonna love this. I think Zeke had a good night. I
He
think
did.
Zeke had a good.
He
You
was
look at
fine.
it.
He was not
Zeke
the reason
had
they lost tonight,
okay. I'm
right?
not gonna say good, but like 13 points, 5 rebounds, 6 for 6 from the line. You know who was not 6 for 6 from the line? Bruce Brown. Uh, and 50% from the field. I think he was
Decent defense on Evan Mobley.
passable. Some pretty decent defense. I think the idea that he can't do anything on the court is a little overblown. But yeah, I think Duron Holmes had a lot of good moments. I think he approached the game with a lot of passivity, and that worked really well early in the game before the Cavs realized what he was doing. Racked up a lot of assists, but I think down the stretch, you're talking about confidence a little bit earlier. Nowhere did I feel like the confidence went away than Duron in the fourth quarter. And I think
Ooh.
it started to spread a little bit towards the other guys as well, that nobody really had the juice down the stretch. And some of that is fitness. Some of that is that guys are tired and they've played the whole game and they're, trying to dig deep and find a little bit more in the tank. But yeah, that was just the game to me. I just feel like down the stretch they didn't make shots. There were certain guys who didn't want to take shots and certain guys who couldn't make shots when they did take them. And I think that's a big confidence thing.
Yeah, I think whenever you lose a game, it's easy to look at like what went wrong and like what we could have done better. But I think a little over an hour after this game's over now. If these teams played 10 times as the way currently constructed, I feel like the Cavs would win the next 10 by like double figures. So I actually thought the Nuggets probably played about as well as they could given the circumstances. I think Jamal ran out of gas in the fourth. I think the Cavs realized, okay, at halftime, like maybe we shouldn't single cover Jamal Murray with 6 foot tall Darius Garland. Maybe we should actually trap him and make somebody else beat us. And Peyton had plenty of good looks in the second half, just couldn't hit his threes. I would have liked to see him drive a little more because it seemed like he was able to be pretty successful with that. Um, but positives, I mean, yeah, Murray, you could put Murray out there with like 4 scrubs and he's still going to go out and give it his all. Like he doesn't feel like anybody's going to beat him. So, his stubbornness and his competitiveness, I think really kind of inspires his teammates to also give great effort. I thought Spencer Jones was really active tonight and hit some big shots. He was battling on the glass with those guys. And Jaron Holmes, man, I thought he played. It was really exciting to me. Um, it was interesting that you said passive because what I thought he was doing was I could see within like a couple of minutes why Calvin Booth was so high on this guy. And that is because he plays basketball in a way that he wants everybody to move together as one. Like how we've talked before about how anytime a European player comes over to the NBA, we always say like, well, at least this guy knows how to play. Like they all just have like better coaching and understanding of like the team game.
Yeah.
I think Duran already is pretty advanced in understanding like I'm a big man. I'm here to play defense, rebound, set screens, make good passes, shoot when I'm open. But there's multiple ways to do that, right? There's like if you ever notice when Zeke catches the ball, he's basically trying to get rid of it right away, which I get it. Like he's not gonna dribble and like cross you up. He's just not that kind of player. But you remember like when you first start playing basketball and they teach you triple threat? Like look at the basket, be a threat with the ball. I felt like Holmes was still doing that, right? There was a few times when he drove, they played good defense they stopped him, he spun and then he kicked it out to somebody. But I felt like there was a lot of times where he was catching the ball up top and he was being aggressive, but he was being aggressive to pass. You know who it reminded me of? It reminded me of prime Draymond Green on the Warriors because remember, he used to always get the ball in that middle of the floor area, and it's like he wasn't looking for his own offense, but he was still making plays for everybody else. So I
Yeah.
thought that was really exciting because, Ray, you know this. How many guys get to the league and they think, oh, I made it to the NBA? Well, now I got to show that I belong. And they think the way they show they belong is by putting up shots, right? They're like, oh, I got to prove that I can score. And he didn't come in with that mindset at all. So I'm not saying like I think he's going to be like an all-star or that he's going to be great. Like I know you probably want to see him be a little more aggressive and that'll come, but I thought that his approach was fantastic.
I only found it troubling because of how the game ended.
Mm-hmm.
Most of how he approaches the game for a long time, both like here today, what you see today, and how he played in the G League and how he played in college, I think is good. I think it is healthy and representative of a lot of what you're saying. It's in a similar way. One of the things I think sometimes a lot of the guys who they understand how to play the right way, and even Jokic had to kind of adapt to this, is that in crunch time, sometimes you have to take and not just take, but like take with confidence the shots are presented. Like there's not like a side, hey, I can and find the next guy and we're gonna find a better shot. No, this is the shot you have because they're doubling your best player, and I need you to. And if you're not going to shoot, I need you to go engage the defense in another way. And then I'm not saying it's just him either. I actually think this is actually what I wanted to. I wish I could just be podcasting about this topic and not the injuries themselves. But for most of the season, I think Denver has struggled with closing games. I think that's pretty fair. My biggest issue right now with the team and how they approach it, whether Jokic has been on the court or not, has been late in these games. They're so talented. They're so good offensively. I just feel like they settle way more than they need to. Like I even going back to say the Wolves game, right? You're playing a great game. You're back. You climb yourself out of early troubles, and you get Rudy Gobert in huge foul trouble early on. Somehow, how does Rudy Gobert make it a quarter and a half without getting fouled out? I think it's because Denver kind of decided that actually I'm okay shooting this three and that jumper and that jumper and that three because they're all open. And I get that because Denver's talented and they're a great offensive team. But I think they just become a little too passive in how they approach um, embracing and responding to pressure. Like they get pressed out of being aggressive. They get pressed out of I'm going to attack the rim. And I think that's when they've really struggled down the stretches of these games. Maybe this is one of those things that like, am I hyper focusing on it? Maybe, but like now that I've seen it, I can't unsee it. They just go away from attacking the rim, especially if it's not Jokic.
I want to push back just a little bit on this because I don't think you're wrong about what you're seeing. I think that how a team plays comes down so much to who's on the court and what their game is. And I think our two main guys on the team that attack the basket are Christian Brown and Aaron Gordon, right? Like Aaron Gordon probably draws the most fouls of anybody on the team not named Jokic. I mean, maybe Murray draws more. I don't have the numbers in front of me. But like those guys are aggressive. Their game is built on getting to the basket. Obviously, AG's really worked on his shot lately, but it's funny, right? Because like I always complain that CB doesn't shoot enough threes, right? But right now, what you're saying without saying it, Ray, was like, yeah, Spencer Jones, he's not really going to put the ball on the floor and try to get to the cup. He's either going to shoot the three or kick it out. Tim Hardaway, he's gotten to the cup a little bit this year, but he's more comfortable on the outside. I thought Jamal was driving today in the second half, but they were really collapsing on him, so it was just hard to get much going. And then, I mean, if we're being real, like Holmes and Zeke just haven't gotten minutes, so I think they're, when in the situation we're in right now, they're still sort of just trying to find what their role is. Who does that leave left that's in the rotation? I mean, Pickett, he's just so small and unathletic. He's not really going to get into the paint. That's not his game. Bruce, he's been awful.
I don't believe in it.
No, he's you don't
Everybody
really trust
but
it.
Bruce. I want a team meeting. Like, guy, Jokic is getting doubled. He's not on the court right now, but Jamal's getting doubled. I understand it's not something you're the most comfortable with, but down the stretch of these games, you need to like press those advantages.
Yeah.
And if that means you got to do something uncomfortable, I think that's just that's the missing. That to me, that's what's missing about the team.
I will say,
and maybe
Peyton
it is
the
personal.
one guy. Like Peyton is probably one of the best at like driving and then being able to get his shot off because he's 6'8" and long. Like he doesn't get blocked a whole lot. And I thought he settled quite a bit for threes in the second half, which might have cost us. But I looked at the stat sheet, man. He played 40 minutes tonight. He led the team. We were in the game because of Peyton Watson. So if he had a bad fourth, I can't like put the loss all on him. And
No.
I think if we're being honest, like that's unfortunately one of the like human nature things about basketball, right? When you're tired, it's easier to just take the shot than it is to like dribble, drive, go up through contact and make the difficult plays. But like that's your whole point too, right? Like winning is hard. So
Winning is hard.
if you want to
In the-
get free throws or get to the line or get baskets, you gotta force the issue sometimes, and that
and
comes with
yeah,
reps and experience.
and Jamal's not immune from running out of gas in the fourth, even though part of it is that he's doing so much more early in
Yeah,
these games this year. Like he's coming out with that aggression as opposed to I think in earlier years and earlier season, he's kind of let me feel out the game, let me get comfortable, let the game come to me, and then in the fourth, I'm going to take over. It's Murray time.
yeah,
And now that he's more aggressive on the daily and from quarter to quarter, there comes that balance of do I still have enough to get to the cup when I'm being pressed after a long game? I don't know. And even Jokic, I think a lot of people have also noticed this. He's taken a lot of threes. He's taken a lot of threes this year, even when he was playing.
yeah. I think with Jamal, and a lot of people aren't going to like this, but I'm going to have to make an excuse for him tonight.
We're gonna
So
have a lot of takes people aren't gonna like tonight.
I really think that the way he's played this year has been so refreshing, being aggressive, hunting a shot early, that I really do think there was a calculus tonight in the second half of like, okay, we just got to stop. Let's try to kill some clock here and then limit the possessions in this game. Unfortunately, when you do that, that makes it easier for them to run a trap at you late and make it a more difficult shot. Whereas I think when we have more guys, as you've seen, he's more ready to like take a pull up three in transition or take an early shot clock shot. And there's really only like one I can remember in the second half. Remember, he was coming down the left side of the court. It was kind of like a muddled 4-on-3 break. I kind of would have liked to see him drive and maybe try to dish for a layup, but he just pulled up. He's like, oh, I got open three. And I didn't mind the shot because it's like, you're not going to get a lot of clean looks like that tonight. So unfortunately, he didn't hit that one, but that's the kind of shot that he's going to take way more often, like when we have a full complement of guys and you want him to take it. Here tonight, there was just more pressure because there just was less scoring available to him on the floor. He didn't have as much help.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think the biggest, it's not a secret when you're down four starters and your backup center and, all the guys that Denver has lost over the last couple of months, you're going to struggle with having what depth you had is now your bench guys are now starters, your reserves are now your bench guys, and you only have so many of them. In the immediate term, I don't know if there's an easy fix for that. So I am to some degree forgiving of the fact that they lost this game, and I do feel a sense of I'm proud of how they did fight because this is a game they really had no business being in and no business winning, and especially a couple games now where they really shouldn't have been in these games, and they're fighting hard and they're making them competitive.
Ray, what's fascinating? So if you're okay with that, I'm kind of ready to flip to big picture here because the last couple games have been, I'm not going to say really enjoyable from like an aesthetic standpoint, but they've been really enjoyable from a competitive standpoint, right? I mean, this team is fighting hard for wins. I think my biggest frustration with the Nuggets this season, as good as their record was, before Jokic got hurt, they were 22 and 8. They lost so many games because they just didn't play defense. Like they scored plenty and they're like, oh, we can just win this game with offense. So I don't know if this is allowed. I don't know if I'm allowed to say anything bad about Nikola Jokic, but
Oh, we're gonna say the same thing. Okay.
I've mentioned before how I've defended his defense because he's so important to the team that there's going to be like a few shots here or there a game where he's just not going to contest. He's just going to be like, you know what? You beat me. Have the layup. It's not worth risking a foul here. While I totally get that, I think what we've seen the last two games with guys that one are more athletic and two flat out just don't know any better, Zeke and Deron Holmes is the other team doesn't have free eats at the rim anymore. So I'm not saying that they're like great shot blockers or anything, but just having more shots be contested makes it difficult for the opponent, right? And again, I want to be clear about something. I'm not trying to crap on Jokic's defense. I don't think he's a bad defender. I don't even think he's making the wrong decision to let those go sometimes, because let me give you a quick example. So we both play basketball, right? You ever have those plays where it's either in like semi-transition, or even if you're just guarding a guy and if he gets a step on you and he's going to the basket and you know you can't block the shot, but you can maybe like swipe and get a hand in there to like hopefully mess them up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so then that's kind of like when, if you're just playing pickup, you're going to do that every time because you're like, well, I hope I get a hand on it and he misses. But in like a ref game, that swipe down, yeah, it messes the players up, but that often gets called for a foul. So I think Jokic just looks at it and is like, you know what? I'm not going to do the like just try to touch the ball to mess you up, because even though it may not be a foul, the ref looks at it as like, oh, the player got off balance when they fouled. What Duran and Zeke are doing now is they're actually doing the full contest. So as strange as it sounds, I feel like when you're actually like playing full on defense, I feel like they actually don't call fouls as much as when you just do the swipe down. So I think Jokic decided a while back, like, I'm just not even going to do the, the gamble defense. I'm just going to let it go. But we've also seen like that has, its detriments, because then maybe not everybody's playing as hard as they can on defense.
So yeah, I have to give a reverse compliment sandwich. I'm
Sure.
gonna say something bad, and then I'm gonna say something good, but I'm also gonna say something bad after that. I think Jokic is the problem.
On defense.
Oh yeah, it's him. It's part of it is how the game is refereed, right? To put to your point, especially if you're the less athletic player, you're gonna get all those ticky tack fouls that go against you, because the offensive player is the one who's able to, whether it's foul baiting or in it, and is foul baiting gross and immoral, sure, but that's how the game is refereed. Uh, and Jokic is so Jokic is not rarely ever the aggressor. Like, Jokic has had good defensive moments, and it's usually when that's been true, is that when he's able to actually be assertive, right? That's how, when they won the championship, that kind of two at the level defense that started to work. But right now, I mean, we spent a lot of the offseason. I was just talking about this with someone about how we needed to get rid of MPJ because he makes all these defensive lapses. And now that we have Cam, the defense is going to be more sound. It's not. It's not better. It's not better. Y'all got older and less athletic. It's not better. And the reality is that you look around that back line, especially with Aaron Gordon out, is that like they're kind of guys you can attack. And as long as you're the ones who are attacking, you're going to get the calls. You're going to get all that stuff's going to go your way. And if they're ever going to make up for that, Jokic has to be more assertive defensively. And so here's where the rub is. I think part of that is that Jokic, here's like the little silver lining. I think if Jokic can carry less of the offensive load, which, as much as the team is deeper now, I still think while he was playing, he was carrying so much of the offensive load, especially when you have some guys on the team who just don't take seriously their own agency. When you're talking about offensive creation, when you're talking about getting downhill, attacking the rim, creating for themselves, creating for others, stuff that they all had to do tonight, which is why I'm really proud of them. And I think this is a big growth point for them, for guys like Peyton, guys like Pickett. Deron Holmes was great in this way, is that now they have to take it upon themselves to say, okay, I got to go do something. I got to make it happen. If Jokic doesn't have to set the table for everybody all the time and be one of the most, I'm really frustrated with Bruce Brown right now because as much as he has had some good, he's playing point guard, right? He's had some good passing games. It is Facu-esque the way he is putting the pressure on other guys, especially Jokic, to do so much of the offensive creation and finishing. He's got to do the hitting, the catching, the relief pitching, the whole thing. And when you put all that pressure on him to do all those things, he's not going to have anything left for defense. He's not going to have, because we also see what's happening to Jamal Murray tonight, is that you get to the fourth quarter and like you don't have, I think he understands that kind of, the team needs me, I need to pace myself thing. So how can I sit here and ask more of Jokic defensively when he's being asked to do 50 points a night, 20 rebounds, 15 assists, that kind of thing? It's just not sustainable to still have a good defense. So when you're talking about like how I think this whole experience can be a growth point for the team, is that hopefully when everybody is back and you'll have energy and you know that, hey, you're even deeper than you thought. Hopefully you don't need Bruce Brown to play respectfully. And I'm gonna put that aside. We want to talk about it later. But your Pickett's and your Peyton Watsons and even your Zeke Najee's and your Deron Holmes and your all these guys that they can be a little bit more independent. I think that can be, not only are they playing better defense without Jokic, but once he comes back, maybe Jokic can put a little bit more of that energy into the defensive end and make some of those challenges that you're talking about.
That would be nice. Agree with pretty much everything you said. I also want to be clear that you said you think it's Jokic. You think like the team's worse defensively with Jokic. I'm not ready to say one way or the other, but I will say that it was clear tonight that they miss his rebounding. So I do think the initial contests are better. I would have loved to see what the Cavs shooting percentage was on their first possession. Unfortunately, they had too many second possessions. So, yeah, I think Jokic, we all know his limitations, but when he has a full complement of guys, the team did start off with solid defense at the beginning of the year. So the hope is that Aaron comes back, Peyton stays healthy, gets more minutes, and I think Spencer's been a pretty valuable piece as well there. So I guess I'm kind of optimistic long term that this team can play good enough defense. I'm not saying they're going to turn into like a top 10 defense or anything, but there was that stretch like right before Jokic got hurt where it's just bad. I mean, you're giving up 100 and however many points to the Mavericks. Come on. And some of that is just like shot variance. I think Cooper Flagg hit 4-5 threes in that game, and he's like one of the worst 3-point shooters in the league. I know he's a rookie, but it's like make or miss league, man. We really stole one in Toronto, but then tonight, I mean, Craig Porter's hitting threes for the Cavs. He's a good player. Lonzo hit a couple threes tonight. He's been shooting awful this year. So DeAndre Hunter hit everything. Like sometimes guys just make threes, and that's kind of like ends up being the story of your ball game. Obviously, we like to talk about the game a lot deeper than that, but I think I'm really encouraged from what I've seen these last two games. I don't know if they're going to be able to go 500 until Jokic is back, but it definitely looks like they're going to fight as long as Jamal doesn't run out of gas. But here's what I will say. Out of all the things, some of the things I've been thinking about long term, right? How lucky are we that Jamal finally came into the season in shape? Because now we're 23-11. Had we gotten last year's version of Jamal, what do you think our record would have been when Jokic went down? You probably flip it by 5 games, right? It probably would have been like 18-15. So now you're really kind of in that danger zone of like falling to the play-in. And you know what? That might happen anyway. But as we know, these guys are going to come back in like a month, and then hopefully the Nuggets, can piece it together enough during this time to understand like, hey, we still got a really good group in there. We still got a lot of talent. We know what this team can accomplish, and I think that they understand like this season's not over. This is going to be a rough stretch. Almost every single season brings adversity. I mean, look at the Oklahoma City Thunder, right? They lost their last 3 games to the San Antonio Spurs. They're not happy about that. They're probably pissed off. So
Look at the Lakers.
yeah,
Their
yeah,
defense
JJ's
is
not happy.
absolute garbage.
But yeah,
Everybody has problems. So to your point, I think there is a lot they can learn from this stretch, and they'll come out of it a better team. Yeah, it'll be all right. It'll be okay. We just got to endure the pain of maybe a few more losses that obviously if everyone was healthy we wouldn't have, but that's okay.
yeah. I I was just thinking, when Jokic went down, a part of me is like, what? Jokic doesn't get hurt. Like we've been really spoiled. Like
It's been an assumption.
how much of an Iron Man he has been throughout his tenure. And are you ready for a Galaxy Brain take, Ray?
Okay, I'm prepared.
All right. So I think you've known me long enough to know that I am a huge believer in the law of averages. So I think everybody knows what that means, but I want to give a good example just so people understand where I'm going with this. Okay. If you were to take every single NBA team, all 30, for the last like 10 to 15 years, and count up their injuries, right? Injury report, games missed. Add those up, add it all together, divide by 30. Now you have an average number of like games missed per team, right? I haven't done the research on all that numbers, but it's a lot. We've seen guys get injured constantly throughout the NBA, right? It's like when it comes to guys like Kawhi Leonard or Embiid, ends up being like the story of their careers, right? So I think on average, the Nuggets have been pretty lucky. I mean, yeah, they had rough years. I know that Murray getting hurt in 21 really like nuked that postseason and the next season. They win in 23. Jokic has been relatively healthy. Um, and I just kind of feel like it was due. We were kind of due for one of these years where there were more injuries because they've been pretty healthy, the core group, since Jamal came back. So I'm talking this year and the last 3, championship, last 2 years, this year, been mostly
Michael
healthy.
Porter as well. Like I
Michael
think that's
Porter,
that's a huge. If we had told ourselves, yeah, he's going to just have 3
so
70 game seasons, I think people would be like, oh wow,
yeah,
that's crazy.
here's why Porter's a special case. When you look at injuries, I think that most people assume like, okay, you're drafted in the NBA, young guy, healthy. He was not healthy when he was drafted, right? Like he slipped because he already had injury concerns. So I think if you play out Porter's career like 100 times from like when we drafted him, I feel like we actually got like a solid outcome, right? It's not like, yeah, it could have gone better, but it could have gone a lot worse.
Yeah, he's
Um,
having a great career relative to what it could be.
so my point is a couple things. We were kind of due for some injuries. Some teams, it feels like the injury bites them every year. I know poor Memphis fans have to be sick that their team seems like it's always injured. The Galaxy Brain part I have is Jokic was able to avoid a significant injury. So we're at 23-11 now. So 34 games into the season. So that means there's 48 games left, I think. So 48 games is a long time for something to happen, right? But my galaxy brain takeaway is he already got injured now, and it wasn't a major injury. So this is like 4 more weeks where he's not going to get injured.
Okay.
So by the time he comes back, it's less likely for him to have a season-ending injury from the day he comes back than if he was just playing right now.
I don't know if that's literally true. I
You don't like it?
maybe I'm not a doctor. I don't know how that works. But statistically, I get what you're saying. Like,
Yeah, right. The statistics of it is not crazy. I'm telling you, if I have work today and I have work for the next 100 days, but I say, you know what, I'm sick. I'm actually going to work from home the next 30 days. Now that's only 70 days I'm on the road of those next 100 versus the full 100. That's what I'm telling you.
regression to the mean would imply that he plays every game from whenever he gets back to the end of the season.
Right. He's getting it out of the way early.
That's fair.